me, just for those that don't know you, who you are, what you do, and how you got to kind of where you're at. Just generally, overview.
My name is Brad Lee. They were going to name me Brock, but then I would have been Broccoli. So they went with Brad. I was from a blue-collar family, dropped out in the 11th grade. I was going to say 6th grade. The 11th grade, thought I was going to be a movie star, went to LA, got tired of being broke, yada, yada, yada. Went back home, was told to get a real job. Actually, this will take a long time.
Take your time.
They told me to go back home, or I went back home, got tired of being broke, so I got told to get a real job. So my blue-collar family I was listening to had me go work at the Forest Service. So I get a job at the Forest Service. Now, keep in mind, you know, $22 an hour back in those days was quite the dough. And here I am, a young kid, getting one of the jobs that were available, which is pretty damn good. And so I'm picturing myself, you know, showing up into the mountains with a flannel shirt and an axe and a fucking wolf by my side. Gonna go save eagle eggs and shit. And I show up and I get off the thing and like it wasn't glamorous. They pointed at this big rubber sack of water and they said, put that on and go squirt the stumps that are still smoldering. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what is that? They said, that's a piss bag. You're the piss bag operator. And so I went from this big old illusion of grandeur to like, I'm just a chump doing this shit. So I go up and down the mountains. I mean, there's smoke, there's sticks in the face. So a day later, I get this little poison oak on my arm. And I'm like, wait a minute. I go into the guy and I'm like, dude, I got poison oak right here. And he opens his shirt and he was covered in poison oak. And he said, that's part of the job. And I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, you know, you're going to get poison oak, bro. And so I said, you know, I can't do this. And so I was thinking about my grandpa and everybody's going to tell me I'm a puss and all this shit. So I just, you know, buckled up and said, dude, you can have this job. And I quit. Next day I went down, opened up the newspaper because I had to have a job and I saw car sales. So I'm like, okay, let me go in and try car sales. And the first month I made 3 times what anybody else was making. And it just got me in the life of sales. And then up till about 30 years old, I stayed in sales. I sold art, RVs, all kinds of stuff. And then that's kind of when it shifted and I invented Lightspeed. That was 21 years ago. And now I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a portfolio of companies. Lightspeed's one of them. I have RV dealerships. I've got, you know, life insurance company. I've got a number of companies. And I guess I would say I'm a true entrepreneur, which is, if you look up the definition, someone who takes greater than normal financial risk to run a business. And that's what I do.
And so what I think is fascinating though is that you went from car sales and you went after always the big fish. I mean, you look on Lightspeed, you got Tony Robbins, you got Gary Vee, you got Damon John.
Don't have Gary Vee.
You don't? Okay, there was something else you were with.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So tell me, what are some of the other people that are on that Lightspeed?
Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, John Maxwell, Grant Cardone, all the people you used to know and all the people you are about to know are on Lightspeed. If they're not on Lightspeed, they're you know, they come see me.
And so now you've got pictures of you. I mean, you're on the 10X stage with Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
You're on some of these biggest stages all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, so how did you meet Grant? What was your sort of journey? Because I think that's one of the most fascinating stories to kind of illustrate where you are right now.
Well, none of the stages I've been on are better than this one. So give him a round of applause. Ultimately, what had happened was, yeah. So I spent you know, years getting good at sales. I became very, very good at sales and influence and persuasion. Not like technically like this guy, but just accidentally. Like I just learned and did it. So once I got really good at it, I used to grab people out of Burger King drive-through windows, you know, landscapers, anybody that I could grab, I could turn them into a badass pretty quickly. So at 30 years old, I was running this car dealership, and there was a Mexican dude in the back, and he was the coolest dude ever. His family was cool. He had 2 little kids, but they always were very quiet and very shy and timid, and they didn't really speak up or stand out, or they just didn't smile a lot. But one of the coolest guys I ever met. So I said, dude, come up front and let me show you how to sell cars. And he didn't think he could. And so with about 3 months, he was making about 15 grand a month. And I watched that money change his whole family. His kids came in with, old clothes before, new clothes now. Their faces were lit up. They were laughing, playing. The wife went from, not saying much to frickin', looking like she was running the show. It was unbelievable what I saw transform. And so that was about 30 years old. And realistically, people always ask me, what was this, pivotal moment? And I look back to that moment because that's when I stopped worrying about getting rich myself and started worrying about helping other people do better. So I'm running by his lessons and shit. Like, one of the things he always says is, let them finish applause, which is hard for me. But anyway, so about 30 years old, I changed this family's life, just teaching them some things. And I thought, I want to quit my job and go out and train people how to sell, close, and persuade so I can do this more for people. So I quit my job. No one was happy, especially my ex-wife, because I was behind on child support, and it wasn't a good move at all. And so I didn't care. I just wanted to help people. I knew I had the ability to do so. So I quit my job and I run out on the road and I start training people. And after about a month or two, I didn't get the warm and fuzzies. I couldn't feel the same thing, and it technically wasn't working. And I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. So I had to go back and kind of compare what I used to do versus what I am currently doing. And I found 4 key ingredients when it comes to training, that have to be there. And most people miss this. In fact, still to this day, dude, there's companies, a lot of you might be training your people, but in reality, you're not training, you're exposing people to information. And there's a big difference. So to train people properly, you need, number 1, good content, right? The right way to do it in the first place. You need practice, repetition and accountability. And if you think about it, I trained my employee on such and such. You sat them down, you told them once, and then you said they're trained. That's not trained, that's exposure. And here in Las Vegas, exposure will get you arrested. So you don't want to just expose people. You got arrested last time you were here for indecent exposure, but they had to let him go for lack of evidence. So he turned out all right. But those 4 key ingredients, look at your training programs, folks, because if there isn't good content, repetition, practice, and accountability, it's not training, it's just exposure. So once I realized this, I'm like, holy crap, now I know how to fix it. So I went back out on the road, started doing it, and then I realized in order to give the repetition, the practice, and the accountability, I almost had to work for the place I was there to speak at once. I'm getting to where I met Grant, by the way. So anyway, I invented a software that would allow me, this was in '99 when the internet was just coming around, there was nobody else doing it.
Like this out there, but like CD-ROM maybe.
Yeah, like, trust me when I tell you, nobody was doing it. And someone said, that means you kind of started the whole thing. And I'm like, yes, I did. Didn't realize it at the time, but all I was doing was trying to get something solved, right? It was my problem that I had to solve. So I invented this software, found people to build it, and I created my Lightspeed VT training system for salespeople, and it started to work, and it started to work really well. And so I started, going back up, started kicking ass, making money, and then I ran into kind of a plateau where everybody would say, we use Zig Ziglar, we use, Joe Verdi or Grant Cardone or anybody who else I was trying to say I was better than. And I realized that if you want to sell something, folks, don't make it hard for people. Sell them what they want. So I kept hearing about Grant Cardone. We use Grant Cardone. These were in car dealerships. So I just decided, and I had heard of him because I was in the car business, so I knew who he was. And so I just decided that if I could get Grant on the platform, I could sell more people. So I literally just said, fine, I'll go close the guy that teaches you to close. And so I tracked his ass down, and at first I thought he was acting stupid to get a better deal, but he wasn't. He didn't, well, I mean, seriously. I was like, what do you mean you don't get it? And he's like, yeah, I don't get it. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm at this big old fancy ass house. And by the way, he was making about $1 million a year, maybe 2 million training people, but he was making really good money in the real estate game. So he was taking all this money and just buying real estate. So he had this beautiful mansion. I was up at his house trying to close him, and he just kept acting like he didn't get it. And I'm like, dude, is this guy, like, I don't get it. So long story short, I finally did close him. And he went from making $1 million a year, $1 million or $2 million a year from his training business to about $60 million a year with the virtual training system that we put together for him. So that allowed me to hang out with him for, you know, a good 12 years, and that's how I know Grant.
And he took, so you guys do math on that? $60 million a year in training? And how did he leverage that income to, why do we know Grant? That's because this is a big piece here, that there's a lot of ways to grow your presence and branding and all these different pieces. This is where, because when Brad and I met, it became one of those things where I'm going, okay, he's like, show me this process. I'm like, well, show me everything else that you do, because I'm watching how he grows a business, how he runs a business, how he's growing his brand, the way he's literally, I'm flying all over the country, he's out buying Ferraris and going, law of power, man, make people come to you, dude.
48 Laws of Power. You can read it.
So collaborating with people that are going to make you better. And so I'm picking his brain, he's picking mine, but I'm looking at him saying, okay, so he took a portion of that and leveraged it, parlayed it into his brand.
Absolutely.
So can you tell that story of, like, because this is fascinating. The reason we know Grant, prior to this, if you didn't sell cars, you had no idea who he was.
Yeah, well, the reason you know Grant is the same reason you know Ty Lopez and Gary Vee, actually, because, you know, not so much Gary Vee, but Ty and Grant both, they just paid to be in front of you. So every time you turned on social media, you saw Grant and you saw Ty and you saw these people. It's just, they paid. Like, Grant was spending $1 million a month to make sure every time you opened up social media, his face was there saying, come on, man, buy my shit.
So $60 million on a virtual platform takes $1 million a month to invest in it. And so
just real quick, he did that kind of, and that is why it blew up. Okay, a lot of people, when we first started, he went out and sold his normal customers, his normal fan base, you know, his clientele, and it was stalled. You know, he was maybe doing $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then it just stayed like that for 1.5 years.
And then you showed him how to.
Well, then I went to LA and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I thought you were the big famous Grant Cardone. How come you don't have a bunch of car dealerships? And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, like, for example, how many dealers did you ask to buy this system last week? He said, last week I was doing this and doing that. So he wasn't doing anything. It was him and an assistant, and he pretty much didn't even have anybody. And so I said, dude, you got to hire people. You got to call people. You got to reach out to them. So that's what he started doing. Then he got up to about $300,000 a month. And then he started taking some of that money and putting it, he didn't just start at $1 million a month. He built that up. But at the end of the day, man, we were driving around LA one time and he said he got canceled on some show that he was supposed to be on, not by his doing. They canceled him for some reason. And he was pissed, and he said, dude, I'm gonna make myself a celebrity. And I said, what do you mean? He said, watch. And he literally started sticking on his phone 24 hours a day. If he was taking a piss, you saw it. Everything he did, does anybody remember that? Like, everything he did, and he started putting these things called Grant Rants on YouTube. And YouTube, I'm telling you right now, is the #1 platform for all of you guys. If you don't have a YouTube channel, go get a YouTube channel. I've never typed in to Instagram, how do I save money? I have on YouTube. So YouTube is the mothership of it all. If you guys don't have a YouTube channel, I don't care what you do, go make one. In fact, if you go make one, and before you even leave this, tell people who you are, what you do, why you're great at it, and give them your phone number and upload it and forget all about it. And you could have one video on the entire channel that says those things, and I'll bet you it come back here in a year and you'll have gotten business from that one video. So imagine if you had 1,000 videos. So anyway, Grant just started doing that, started hitting up YouTube, then Instagram, then Periscope, then it was like everywhere he was, everywhere, everything. He was on everything all day long. Elena would hate it, everyone would hate it. I was following him, I called him, I said, dude, I'm gonna have to unfollow you, bro. Like every 5 seconds you're in my face. He said, go ahead, you ain't buying anything. And so literally, I thought he was gonna ruin his brand. I thought he was making a big mistake. You know, and I was wrong, he was right. He just kept going and going and going and going, and boom, you know, he kept scaling and scaling, and boom, now he's like legit known.
And so this is why, one of the reasons I wanted to bring Grant up here is that what I think is so incredible is that for 21 years, you have been the portal for the best minds to share their content. So you have witnessed, observed, watched, not only the knowledge, but how they grow the knowledge, and been behind the scenes. I mean, you're with Ed Milet, you name the people, they're your buddies, you and Tim Grover. This is your network of people, and you're all collaborating on how do we penetrate the market with knowledge and information, how do we communicate, how do we, as the algorithm changes, what's real, what's not, and people with money, people with not money. I mean, so the knowledge that you're sharing, this is coming from the source of a lot of the people that we follow. So, I mean, that to me is ridiculously valuable. And so, you have a process that you go through, those 5 that we talked about before. And we can go into much detail or not as you want, because I also want to go into, Brad is also ridiculous storyteller. Is he a good storyteller? That's the other reason, is I want you to see what an amazing kind of, is a hard way book. Hey, you have an amazing book out there, The Hard Way, so you don't have to. Amazing storyteller. And what he's adding to that is the tie-down to it, which we can cover that later on. But I want to go into what we just talked about there.
Well, when people ask me kind of, because my brand's starting to blow up, I haven't started the last step, which is the what I call boost, that's the money. I'm going to start doing that this year, so hopefully I'm not too late, which is a joke because you're not too late, but I wish I'd have done it way back in the day. But anyway, I'm about to start that boost. But there's a 5-step process, I think, if you really want to build a brand on social media. It starts with the first one, which is...
And I'm going to chime in every once in a while on these, because we talked about this, and I sit and I stare at this list all the time, and I'm pretty smart, and I look at this list, and it just every day kind of means more and more to me. And it clicks a little bit more. So I'm going to chime in every once in a while, just add color or questions, if that's okay.
Chime in. So the first thing, folks, is you have to have the source. The source is where everybody gets stuck. Now the source, just write that down. I need my source. What's my source? My source is this. There's my guy right there. My source is driving here. My source is talking to my kids. My source is dealing with an employee. My source is everything you see on social media is my source, and if you look at it, you start to realize, man, he puts out a lot of content, which you're going to need to. And the problem most folks have is they're trying to think up what to post. I don't have to think up what to post. I'll tell you a story. You want to hear a story?
Yes.
So the dude before him, his name was Sebastian, and he was a real organized, persistent fellow, and I'm not that. So
before the context, when he says there's my source, Brad has what he calls, when we first met, he goes, you need I'm looking for a guy who's a videographer. He goes, you don't need a videographer, you need a predator. I'm like predator? Like predator? No, you need a predator, producer and editor.
Yeah, not the kind that hang out at schools.
Yeah.
It's a producer / editor.
And that's the guy that follows everything. So I'm going to come back to that concept. So this guy is capturing, so he's not trying to create content. It's not content day today where you dress up differently and you show up and you hope you remember your lines and you're highly stressed and work's not getting done and all this stuff where it's not about content day, it's just a day that happens to be captured. Is that right?
Well, I think that's the trick, if there is one. Everybody tries to think in their head. Raise your hand if you thought to yourself, when do I find time to make content? Raise your hand. See, everybody does that. And see, the trick is to not try and think up what to post. You need to be the content. See what I'm saying? Like right now, you're here. Obviously, I wouldn't have someone filming you doing this for 2 hours. But when you go to lunch, when you go to introduce yourself, when you go to meet other people, when you make the phone call, because you guys, so you guys got shit going on, right? You're gonna have to go take that phone call. If you can capture that, you are the content, and that's the trick. You need to be the content. Quit trying to think up content. You end up with pictures of, you doing this, and then a quote of somebody else's 9 times out of 10. And it's like, dude, it's stupid. Like people are next, because that's everybody's doing that shit. But if you're yelling at your kid or yelling at your employee or doing something nuts or giving your opinion, people stop and listen to that shit. But again, the stuff Neil was just talking about, that's our next step. It's called creative. But the first one is the source. So you have to identify your source. Now, all you have to do is do you have meetings? Do you have podcasts? What do you do all day long? Because you don't want to stop and create content. You want to be the content to where you cannot not have time anymore. That's it.
So to me, when I thought about that, I thought about it a long time. The source is anytime you are sharing your ideas of what, giving your opinion on something, training and coaching, right? So if you're running a meeting,
or showing a house if you're in real estate, doing paperwork with a customer, doing the disclaimers, if you're doing a loan, whatever the case may be, you're already doing it every day, aren't you? Or are you full of shit?
Exactly. And that source needs to be captured somehow so that the source, the editor, your predator, has something to draw and work with.
Correct.
So it has to turn into something. And that's the part that blew my mind, because I was watching our videos, I'm like, he literally is on a fucking Zoom call, and every once in a while he'll be talking, and then you'll see him kind of look at the camera. I'm like, oh my God, he's just on a Zoom call. How many Zoom calls am I on that I wish I would have captured?
All of them.
All of them. And that's why now me and Ryan, where's Ryan? Where's Ryan? You still here? In my studio, we just built a button, it hits record. So every one of my Zoom calls is now recorded. We built a Brad Lee cam. Dude, we didn't tell you this. It's the voyeur cam. So I'm on my Zoom call, we got the Brad cam right there. So I can be okay, I'm trying to capture the thing, but it's literally all the time, the recording, because there's a difference between me looking into the camera and one capturing me at work. There's a different psychology to it, which I think is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you're already being you every day. Quit trying to figure out what to make and just be the content. The problem is some of you are afraid of what other people might think. Right? He was saying it earlier. I was back there. I wanted to run out here and say, I'll tell you why you're doing that. But a lot of you won't post the stuff because you're too worried about what other people might think. And that's a mindset issue. That's a self-love issue. That's a self-worth issue. So I always, usually at this point in time, just go talk about how do you build your confidence and self-worth. Because you're never going to outperform your own self-image. So that's the problem. You guys got to fix that shit. You got to fix it. And again, anyone can do it. You just have to want to do it. The pain of not doing it has to exceed the comfort of doing it. But a buddy of mine in the real estate mortgage space, Albert Preciado. Anybody heard of him? Latino dude. Yeah, one time I was telling him this stuff because he always comes on there and he's trying to be, hey, this is how I'm smart and this is why I'm so good. And the gentleman earlier was talking about it. It was always about me. Here's why I'm the best. Well, his social media wasn't very good. As a matter of fact, he was buying all of his likes and followers. And, I'm like, dude, you got to stop doing that shit. That will ruin your credibility. I'd rather have 10 real followers than 50,000 fake ones. Don't mess with the fakes. Don't mess with the contests and the promotions. Just post. Just do what I'm telling you to do. Mix with what Neil just told you to do and just do it. And I'm telling you, 2-3 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, wow, that is how it goes.
This is what he just said. 2 to 3 years from now.
Oh yeah, this ain't a tomorrow thing. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
About 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just starting to get, the tidal wave is just starting to grow for me. I'm starting to pick up, 50 to 60,000 new followers a month. It's steadily increasing. And because once you get that momentum, then, it's a little bit easier. But Albert Preciado kept doing the whole old school bullshit. And I kept telling him, dude, just get the camera. You can afford a camera guy. Get a camera guy. And so the next thing you know, he posts a video of him and his wife arguing in the car. Highest rated video he's ever had. Because, dude, that's what people want to see. They want to see you. They want to know who you are. They need to know, like, and trust you. Then you sprinkle in the shit Neil's talking about, and now you become a subject matter expert. Like when you see Neil all innocent and shit, it makes me want to be like, I need to text him, find out how to buy get a best deal on a mortgage. Why? Because, his content is relevant to what he does, which is, strategic. But you just want to make sure that you have your source. That's number one, folks. Figure out what your source is, and it should be you being you every day. And again, not you watching TV for 6 hours. Although, if you get a Twitch channel and just watch TV or play a game, next thing you know, you have 500,000 people watching you watch TV. It's the nuttiest shit ever. Voyeurism, it's crazy. But I would highly recommend, have your meetings, do your listing. Talk to your kids, talk to your family, play with your dog, go skiing, go boating, do what you do, and then give your opinions and your thoughts. That's really the source. And if you can master that, you're gonna blow up very, very quickly. The problem, again, for most people when I say that is they don't deep down, they don't like themselves or they don't value themselves enough. So I'm worried about what you're all gonna think if I post that. Who gives a shit what y'all think, right? If I like myself enough, why is your opinion more important than mine? And if you want a real quick formula to do that, I call it the Sacred Six, because this is literally, what I built over the years that got me, because it can't be false. It has to be real, man. Like, I know I'm out to help people. When I train people how to sell stuff, I say, quit selling things and start helping people. They're like, what? I just want to close their face. No, like, stop all that old school bullshit, like hammer them and gross their face off and how do I close them? Just look to help people. So I know I wake up every day looking to help people. I know I'm a good person. I don't need you to validate that. You know what I'm saying? And you better get the same way, because there'll be people on social media that they don't like themselves in a certain way. And when you say what you say or do what you do, it makes them angry. For whatever reason. Maybe they can't say it or they wish they could say it, and then they talk shit. They're called haters. You'll get them. But ultimately what you want to do is, number one, you want to forgive yourself for all the crap you put yourself through, because you all have. You've lied to yourself, you've let yourself down, you've ate the wrong foods, you skipped the gym, you cheated on your wife, you cheated on your husband, you cheated on the dog. You did. You already know you did. And by the way, so is everybody else. See, that's my whole thing. Like, dude, we're not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person, so stop trying to be one. You know what I mean? Own what you've pulled, but just forgive yourself and others, right? Let go of the resentment to whoever screwed you in the past. Who cares? That's the past. So you forgive yourself. Step two is you commit to do what you say you're going to do. From this day forward, you just commit. And if it's feeling a little bit like anxiety, it's because you already know that you don't. But it's easy once you realize it's just a choice and you get to make it. So just quit agreeing to everything. Start saying no more, and just make sure that when you commit to do something, you do it, especially when you commit to yourself. Okay, that's very important. Then step three, you rack up the wins. What I mean by that is we're always taught to set these massive goals way up here, and then we come in right here. And then the people in our group and our loved ones tell us, oh, that was pretty good. That's great. Nice job. You lost. If you said you're going to hit $1 million and you didn't, dude, that's a loss, is it not? So don't say you're going to hit $1 million. Say you're going to hit $10. Like, can you eat one less French fry? Can you make one more call? Can you introduce yourself to one more person? Can you brush your teeth? Those are wins, believe it or not, dude. Brushing your teeth, everybody doesn't understand that. I always tell people, best $5 you'll ever invest in, breath spray. How many people here talk to somebody, don't bullshit, and their breath stunk today? Raise your hand. $5 would have solved that. Folks, people are judging you. So anyway, I get off on tangents, but where was I?
Part 3, forgiveness.
Oh yeah, so you forgive yourself, then you commit to do what you say you're going to do, then you rack up the wins. Every day set 10 or 15 goals, but they're just smaller ones. They don't need to be massive goals, folks. They need to be small wins. Why? So you can win constantly. And then when you start to win constantly, you start to be a winner. That's what you do. You win. I win all day long. I win all day long. I'm one of the luckiest sumbitches on the planet.
You know, I was listening to Dr. Jordan Peterson, and he was saying, somebody was talking about, he was like, I just don't feel like I can make a change in my life. And he says, because your goals aren't small enough.
Did he?
Yeah, his goals
See?
aren't small enough.
Old Jordan Peterson agrees.
And even Joe Rogan's like, what do you mean small enough? He goes, is our ego so big that you think that you can't make a change? That we can't stoop ourselves down to maybe it's just today one French fry less? Maybe I can't make the biggest change, I can't run a mile, but maybe I can just do one French fry today. And the next 6 miles, 2 French fries. And there's a small accumulation of that over time that everybody can make a change, but maybe we just need to make a smaller goal.
100%. So I just call it rack up the wins, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to win all day. Because you can't erase memories, but you can replace memories. So you want to win consistently all day, every day. Then once you start winning all day, every day, it'll take a little while, maybe 30, 45 days, you start to feel different. You start to walk a little taller, you start to smile a little bit brighter, and you start to feel like you deserve more. And that's the funny part. You do. You deserve more. Okay? I always tell people, whatever you're making is what you think you're worth. Because you can't make less than you think you're worth. If you think you're worth and you make less, it's bullshit. You're not worth as much as you think. You make what you're worth. So if you want to raise what you make, raise what you're worth. That guy also said that, you know, read books and meet people. Like, folks, I can tell everybody here how to make more money this year right now. Who wants to learn that? I'm telling you right now, shake more hands. Introduce yourself more. More hands you shake, more money you make. Write that down. It's fact. More hands you shake, the more money you make. The question is why aren't you introducing yourself more often? It's either you didn't think about it or, well, I don't want to look stupid introducing they're talking, you know, whatever. So rack up the wins, and then you'll start to feel a little bit better. You'll start to walk a little bit taller.
You notice how also he hasn't just lived behind social media. He doesn't use social media as a cop-out to in-person communications and selling. There's a lot of people that are social media that won't get out from behind it. Remember I said in the beginning today, if you think of everything we're talking about today, if you think it applies only on social media, you miss the point. All you have is a hammer, everything's a nail to you. It is everything. He's giving you strategies on social media, and he just told you shake more hands. It is a holistic approach.
Shake more hands, and from one to many. Like, you don't have to walk up and meet her. You know, get up here and meet everybody. See, the more you can do, the better. So let's go back to step 3. Now you're winning all the time. And this is, I'm telling you guys, it's like magic. You'll start to feel like you deserve more. You'll start to get a little bit more pissed. You'll look at your house, you'll look at your car, you look at your bank account, you look at your body, you look at your relationships, and you start to feel like, dude, I can do better than this. And you can. But then comes step 4, folks. Step 4 I just call get rid of the idiots. Because what's going to happen when you start walking around acting like you deserve more, people are going to educate you, or try to, that you don't. And that's where most people slide back down. Who do you think you are, dude? Oh, now you're going to be top realtor all of a sudden? What, are you going to go to a Tony Robbins convention or some shit? Like, you'll start to hear all these negative people. Could be your loved ones too. That's the problem. Could be your spouse, could be your mom, could be your dad, could be anybody. And you just block that crap out. You have to agree right now. And by the way, that's something you commit to doing. You block it out. Because folks, inside these 2 ears, there's soil, right? And if you plant corn, what do you think's coming up? All at once. Right? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that, right? You plant wheat, wheat's coming up. What if you plant negative shit? What do you think's coming up? Corn? You plant a bunch of negative shit, you think a bunch of positive shit's gonna pop up? No, dude, what you plant grows. So you have to stop allowing people to put anything negative in your head. even if it means bye-bye. But guess what? Some of you guys are not willing to say bye-bye. Why? I believe it's because you don't value yourself. You're afraid to be alone. You need all these people validating your ass. You're afraid to be alone. You don't want to lose this person. Folks, I promise you, once you bust through and you become the new person, whoever's supposed to be around you will remain around you. And whoever is not will go away. Now, what do you want to be? Surrounded by everybody who should be around you? Or people who aren't? See, the universe does it automatically. You start acting a certain way where I'm your friend and I'm like, dude, I don't like the new you. Do you like the new you? Because you can't worry about my opinion. And if you're worried about me leaving and so you change and you slide right back down to the average Joe you were, you just gave me your strength. You just gave me your power. See what I'm saying? You think my opinion's more important than yours, which means you just got more work to do. So get rid of the idiots. Block out the negative shit you're listening to. Okay, then step 5. Most people have no idea what success looks like. If I were to call on somebody right now and say, what is success to you? I guarantee you're going to go, and you're going to start thinking about it. My question is, why don't we think about it every single day? So you need to, step 5 is map out and visualize what success looks like to you. Because it's different for everybody. I know someone who thinks because he goes out and gets laid every night, that's successful. In my opinion, that shit's dangerous. But he thinks he's a champion because he's out there, getting laid. Good for you. But when people say, hey, what's the key to success? I say it isn't a key, it's a combination. And everybody has their own. That's why you see some people make a lot of money and kill themselves. They're depressed still. Because everyone else told them that that's what success was. They didn't figure out what success was for them. So step 5 is map out and visualize exactly what success looks like, specifically what it looks like. And then every day I want you to visualize it and try to feel what it's like being there. Okay? And then every decision you make throughout the day, follow me on this one. This one here is the biggie. Every day, you are just faced with a series of yes or no. Every day, all day. From the second you wake up, do I get out of bed? Do I stay in bed? Do I make the call? Do I not make the call? Do I get her number? Do I not get her number? Do I eat that? Do I not eat that? All day long. Little baby decisions all day long. If you can map out and visualize where you're going and what you want, all day long, all you do is run every decision through the simplest of filters. Does this move me towards or away? And you start to become a really good decision maker. And I always tell people, the choices you make that'll determine the road you take. You show me somebody with a screwed up life, I'll show you someone with screwed up choices. You just have to make better choices. And the way to make better choices is first figure out where you want to be and where you want to go. And then every single day you say, is this moving me towards or away? Make sense? And then step 6. Seek new information, keyword being new information. And I'm not talking about a freaking shampoo bottle while you're sitting on the shitter. We've all done that. I used to grab the shampoo bottle, see what's in it. That ain't gonna help you, okay? Figure out what you wanna do in life. If it's, get books. If you haven't read the 4 Agreements, I highly recommend the 4 Agreements. I highly recommend As a Man Thinketh. Even for women. I highly recommend Mindset by Carol Dweck. I highly recommend AMPLIFII. Your what? Influence. I do actually recommend anything he tells you to do because I've watched and listened. And normally I'll charge 50 grand to be here. And he offered to pay. And I said, dude, come on, man. I'm backing this guy. You guys with me or not? Hey, and just so you know, lately I've been getting booked on a lot of speeches, and I don't, before I'd come out and blah, 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 kind of like I'm doing now, and then I'd leave and they'd be like, yeah, he said a lot of good things, but I don't really know what he said. And then I started working with Renee, and he started showing me how to do the tie downs, and he showed me how to cry. He's good at that. And so I tried it. I'm like, dude, okay, I'll try. And then at one event, I was talking about my grandma and how I was, kind of not loved as a kid. And I started like getting a little choked up. Dude, it was the best speech ever. Everybody's like, oh my God, I saw the vulnerable side to you. I love you so much. But anyway, I don't do that often. But so step 6 is to seek new information, because listen, this is the bottom line. If you want to change what you're getting, you got to change what you're doing. Period. And if you want to change what you're doing, you have to change what you believe. Because the reason you do what you do is because you believe what you believe. That's a fact. So how do you change your beliefs? There's only one way, and that is to get new information. If you continue to get the same information, you'll never ever change your mind about anything. The only way to change your belief is to get new information to consider and think about. And then that's when you change your beliefs, and that's when you change your actions and your choices, and that's when you start to change your results. So that is the 6 ways to build up and value yourself. And I know we're running out of time.
I want to point out, just so we're good. I've designed this in a way that we're good. Trust me. And this is about social media, and he just went on for 20 minutes about self-worth and how to grow self-esteem.
And I'll tell you why, because I've taught a lot of that social media shit, and then I watch and nobody does anything. And the reason they don't do anything is because they don't value themselves. And if it were up to me, I would prefer all of you value yourself after this conference 10 times more, because that'll be worth more than any money you can ever make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But think about it. Let's get that way. Put your business hat back on and how I started. When we said 50 years ago, even when I left college, there wasn't any information out there. Everybody died close to where they worked. And the reason why is that nobody valued the soft skills. There wasn't any need for it because people worked close to each other. And now we're going back to trying to understand these soft skills, like self-love. I mean, Brad walks in, he's got his leather jacket, pulled up his Ferrari, he's got his glass, smoking a cigar, and he's like, you gotta love yourself, man. And it's like, and you think he's joking, he's dead serious about that. And in the beginning, when I first met him, and I told him the honest thing, I said, first thing I said to him, I said, dude, I followed you 3 times. And he goes, but then I kept following, and everybody told me to follow you, and the more I met him, the more I fucking love the guy, because one, he's honest, but he really knows what he's talking about, and two, this is him, off stage, on stage, anywhere. This is who he is. But I want to go back to this. We're talking about social media, but it's about becoming the right person first. Becoming the right person first, because social media will expose who you are. Transparency used to be a choice. It's not a choice anymore. You may fool people for a while, but like I said before, you'll get followers creating a persona, but when it comes time to move, to do something you need, those people won't show up. The people that know you, they're not going to be there. And so I just want to hit on that piece of it. Let's finish out the other pieces. We can't go into all of them, but I want to make sure we close out. We talked about being the source, and I just want to hit the other ones so they at least have them, and then let's close. We'll do a little close together.
Okay, so number 2 in the creating a brand, you have to have the source, which is you. Then you have to have the creative, which is more what Neil was talking about, putting the hook up front. You have to have an editor. Someone needs to edit. And by the way, if you don't know how, there's software where you individually can do it. So to not do it is no excuse. You don't need to be able to afford a videographer. It's just better if you have one. And, let's face it, it's not that difficult. They just hit, record. But I'm just messing because he's like, he wants to make movies and he's a cinematographer. But anyway, you definitely want to get one if you can. If you can't, get your brother, sister, whomever. A phone, like Neil said, it's all you need. But you need your creative. Those are your hashtags, your headlines, and your hooks. Someone has to cut out the ums and ahs, because sometimes you'll do a lot of ums and ahs. Like when I go look at my social media to see what I posted, it's like, I'm seeing it for the first time too, because I didn't say that. Shit, they made me sound pretty good. They just cut out the ums, ahs, and the dumb stuff and made me sound really sharp. I'm not as smart in person as I seem to be on social media. So that's creative. You need the creative. Then you need the outlet. Okay, where is it going? Folks, write these down because you have to have them all. YouTube being the number one. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. Like those are the minimum. Period. Those, you have to have a channel on all of them. And by the way, nobody follows companies, okay? They follow people. So don't make your company one, make you one, right? So it's you, it's a personal brand. And I'll bet you in the next 3 to 5 years, I should make a couple $100 million plus straight from a personal brand. Straight that when I started getting that personal brand, deal flow starts coming out of the woodwork. I get so many offers to do so many things just because of the personal brand. And it's massively valuable. It's probably one of the most valuable things on earth. It's unbelievable.
You literally just hired a whole team to run all your businesses so you could focus 100% of your time on your personal brand.
Yeah. And then so that's your creative. Then your outlet are those 6 minimum. And then your frequency is at least, I mean, there's a little bit of difference between them all, meaning you can get away with YouTube doing 3 a week, but just think to yourself, 2 to 4 per day, every day. Now you guys think, shit, that's a lot of content. Well, yes, it is. Do you want to be rich and famous or no? So at the end of the day, it's a lot of content, but that's why I tell you, be you, just film you. And then that is so much content you can't even imagine. To make 2 or 4 clips, I could make 25 clips from just this hour. So just film all day, film your meeting, film you being you, film you talking to your kids, playing at the park, doing whatever. Then you can even have sessions where, listen, I'm just going to sit here and give my opinion on things. So get the source, hand it to your creative or do it yourself. Make sure that the outlets that you have are all of those. Make sure that the frequency is 2 to 4 videos a day, every single day. And then step 5 is your boost. That's the money you put behind it. I wouldn't recommend you spend a bunch of money until you perfect the rest of it. Because again, he might have put a bunch of money behind those unseen videos and it didn't do anything. Why? Well, because he didn't do this first. So that's why I haven't done the boost yet either. But pretty soon, you guys are going to turn on social media and you're going to see my mug all day, every day. People always say, dude, you're blowing up. I'm like, no, I'm targeting you. But anyway, that's how you build the personal brand. If you guys master that, mix in what Neil said, because nothing he said was wrong, you guys will crush it. And again, if for some reason leave here and don't do it, you're doing you and your family, and more importantly, other people, a big disservice. So do me a favor and go fix you so you can feel proud and almost obligated to come out and do your job. And your job is to help other people get the information. My mission is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it, because I think the reason we fail is we don't have the right information. So imagine if everybody shared the information they have in a successful fashion. You guys could, show me a lot of things when it comes to buying a house, getting a loan, all the things that you guys are experts at, but I don't see you on social media sharing it. Why?
That's awesome. So, in closing, people follow you on Real Brad Lee on Instagram.
Yep.
Everything. To give you guys a word, Brad and I are actually working on a workshop that we're going to be doing together. We'll come back at you with that, but it's going to be, I think, something pretty exciting. We're going to be mixing sort of what happens in AMPLIFII, what happens in branding, and that methodology, mixed in possibly also with predator training. And so that individual is looking at creating that holistic environment. Imagine coming to a session where you're learning how to present this, you're learning the branding strategy, and then your predator is in another room learning how to edit for social media. That would be a very powerful weekend. He's got an incredible training facility down to, how big is that facility that we have?
Well, we can fit probably 120, but I want to limit it to like 50 or 60.
Yeah, 50 or 60 people, all leather reclining chairs, huge digital screen, amazing experience. Stay tuned, we'll be talking about that. Let's get back to Brad.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Am I good to go?
Yeah,
All right, good. Thanks, guys.
all right.